Okay. Let's try to watch this. All of a sudden I click on it. Now it's
So I have done videos in the past on forgiveness, so what forgiveness is. And so I just want to recap that a little bit. Not to repeat myself. Hi, my name is Father Mike Schmitz, and this is Ascension Presents. I think it's worth noting that forgiveness is not the same thing as I'm over it. Forgiveness is not the same thing as, oh, don't worry about it, there's nothing to forgive. Forgiveness is not the fact that, like, oh, I feel fine now, I'm not hurt anymore. That none of those things are forgiveness. Forgiveness is nothing more and nothing less than rooted in justice. Again, this is so important for us. Forgiveness has to be rooted in justice, or else it's fake, it's a fiction, it's not real. Here's what I mean. Whenever someone has done something to us, to you, or you've done something to another that has hurt them, it's cost them something. When someone has hurt you, it's cost you something. And so in justice, what is justice? Justice is giving someone what they're due, like getting what you're owed. And so if someone's hurt you, in justice, you're supposed to get paid back. They ought to try to give you back what they took. And that's just justice. It's not being mean, it's not being hateful, it's not being small or petty. It's simply, that's the virtue of justice. So where does forgiveness come in? Forgiveness is kind of 3 moves here. First move is, I have to note it. I have to realize, okay, wait a second, slow down. I've been hurt. Like, this has happened to me. Or I've hurt you. This is what I've done to you. Okay, I have to stop and note it. The second thing I have to do is I have to count the cost. I truly have to do this, and this goes all the way back to the Gospels, where Jesus is talking about, he's giving a parable. He's talking about the master who has a servant, and the servant owes him a huge amount. In the New American Bible, it says a huge amount, but actually in the original Greek, it says 50,000 talents, which is more than any normal person could pay off in many, many lifetimes. So what happened is the master has counted up the cost, right? He knows exactly how much his servant owes him. This is so important for us as well. If someone has hurt you, the first step of forgiveness is noting this and noting that they owe you something. Second is, what did they owe you? Add it up, tally it up. What has this...
Sorry, but who really has to make that a cognitive decision? Don't you already know if you're offended or not? All right.
Person cost you. Because the third step of forgiveness is a decision. This person cost you something. Second is, what did they owe you? Add it up, tally it up. What has this person cost you? Because the third step of forgiveness is a decision. The third step of forgiveness is basically saying what Jesus says, the Master says in the Gospel, and he says, I release you from your debt. That's it. It's not a matter of...
Okay, let's go back to the second thing you said.
Is a decision. The third step of forgiveness... Because the third step of forgiveness is noting this and noting that they owe you something. Second is, what did they owe you? Add it up, tally it up. What has this person cost you?
So, so let's, even Google knows what I'm about to say. Does not keep a record of wrongs. Does not keep a record of wrongs is a phrase that describes someone who is forgiving and chooses to move on from past mistakes. It's a concept that is often used in the Bible to describe the nature of love. Okay. Let's keep going. In the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13:5 says, love keeps no record of wrongs. So first, make a record. Second, delete the record. Why would you have to take the time to make the record if you have to delete it? So in my opinion, if you thought so hard about all the things that someone's done against you, you've already done that part. Typically speaking, it takes some time to get to the part where we forgive somebody, because we've run this through a rigorous, like, can I deal with this? You know what I mean? Like, you're already like gone through all these emotions, you know, and and essentially you go through all the emotions of loss because you know, what are all the emotions of loss, you know, all the steps of grief. It's like, you know, denial, and you know what I'm saying? Because when you've offended, when somebody's offended you, they've taken something off of you, you know, something that you know doesn't belong to them. They're basically a thief, and they've taken something from you, and they've stolen it, and so it's like you just like go through all of these emotions of loss of whatever it is, and all the things that it could be. What happens if you don't forgive, you're given to the torturers, right? These torturers got you covered. They're going to remind you of all the things that this person's done, and why you should hate them. You already are oppressed with this. I see this as a moot point. Anyways, let's go on.
Because the third step of forgiveness is a decision. The third step of forgiveness is basically saying what Jesus says, the master.
Forgiveness is the third step. Stop making more steps. There's no 3 steps. It's 1 step.
Says in the gospel, and he says, I release.
Yeah, honestly, I don't care what my collar doesn't look like that guy's collar, but listen, what does your heart say about this? Does it say to make a, you know, do a heart check? Am I wrong? What's your heart say about this? Or your heart of hearts, not just your heart of hearts, your heart of hearts. What you really, 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 really deep down want. Deep, deep, deep. And when I say that, it's like, what is it that my heart of heart wants? It's like when I explain this, this is how I explained it to my mom when she was about to get divorced with my stepdad. I said, in your heart of hearts, do you really want to be divorced? She goes, no, I want to be happy and married. So that's what you want. So that's what you want. That person offended you in that moment or whatever. And if you can forgive, and, you know, she said she had to forgive a few times after that because he reoffended, because she was the one offended in that case. But she had to do it over and over again because she knew what she wanted. She knew that that's what she wanted. She wanted to have a happy marriage and trust God. And that's what God was telling her in her heart of hearts, is to stay married and be faithful, even though that this person may have hurt them. See what I'm saying? Anyway.
Release you from your debt. That's what Jesus says, the master says in the gospel. And he says, I release you from your debt. That's it. It's not a matter of like, I'm over it. Again, as I said before, it's not.
Okay, so the whole story is, so let's find the whole story. What is it? The ungrateful full servant, not refugee. Servant verse. Okay. Matthew 18. Yeah. Okay. So I've actually read like this whole thing on my channel already, but parable of the unmerciful servant. I just want to read you guys the story because maybe you've never heard it before. The parable of the unmerciful servant. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. And as he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had to be sold to repay the debt. At this, the servant fell on his knees before him. "Be patient with me," he begged, "and I will pay back everything." The servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and let him go. But when that servant went out, he found out one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 silver coins. He grabbed him and began to choke him. "Pay back what you owe me," he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, "Be patient with me, I will pay it back." But he refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were outraged and went and told their master everything that had happened. Then the master called the servant in. "You wicked servant," he said. "I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you?" In anger, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart. Okay, are we supposed to be the master? No, we're supposed to be the servant. Because the Father in heaven is the Father in heaven. We're not the Father in heaven. Good grief. Okay.
A matter of like, this doesn't bother. And what Jesus says, the master says in the gospel, and he says, "I release you from your debt." That's it. It's not a matter of like, I'm over it. Again, as I said before, it's not a matter of like, this doesn't bother me anymore. This is, you owe me this. This is what you owe me. Injustice is what you should pay me. I'm not going to make you pay me back. That is all forgiveness is. That's what forgiveness is.
Yes, it is you owe me nothing, debt zero. It's a spiritual, I've said this before, it's a spiritual contract you get in with somebody, and you're basically saying, you owe me nothing. You're going to God and saying, okay, this person owes me nothing, and I'm going to give it to you. Because God takes care of his children, and no matter what anybody owes us, he's going to, he directs your future. Not the fact that that person did anything to you. When you are trusting in him, he's going to give that to you. So he's going to direct your path and be with you, and his will be done in your life if you are relying on him. So, okay. So we're not, that's what I'm saying. We basically say, you owe me nothing. That's it. And then we're to say, and if that other person doesn't forgive us, it's between you and God, not me. I'm out. God says, if you forgive, you're out of the deal. It's beautiful. Anyway, let's go.
Because sometimes we hold on to it, right? We hold on to it. They can't pay us back. In fact, in the gospel, in the parable, that guy could never possibly pay his master back in a 1,000 years. Maybe not hundreds of lifetimes, but dozens of lifetimes. I'll do the math at some point. You could never pay him back. So if you were to hold on to it, he would simply be, it's kind of like this. Unforgiveness a lot of times is making your enemy poison, but drinking it yourself. So
you kind of scooch past that real fast, but the point is, yeah, everyone's probably heard this, but maybe not. Unforgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die.
What's forgiveness? Forgiveness is, I note this, it's real. Justice demands that this is what you cost me, and now I just release you from your debt. I'm not going to wait around to make you pay me back. That's all I forgive you is. Now, here's the next part. The next part is, forgiveness is not reconciliation. This is because
I've noticed that this is the part that most Christians and most people in general like about forgiveness. The Bible says to forgive 70 times 7. And it says to go make peace with your brother. That doesn't mean reconciliation. That's a big fancy word. And let's see what he says about it.
That's all review. This is maybe something new. Forgiveness is not the same thing as reconciliation. Forgiveness is, I'm not going to make you pay me back. Reconciliation is something different. And there's a third step that's something even more different. Because we know this.
Fourth
We know
step.
that a person can hurt us, and we can say, okay, I let it go. But also, I'm going to let you go. And that's actually a wise thing that you can do in your life. Is here's a friend.
So that's fine. You don't have to be around people. They don't owe you their time. You don't owe them your time. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think what happens is people use that as an excuse to not make peace with people.
Friend. Here's someone who's part of your life, and maybe they're a deep part of your life, but at some point they've hurt you so much that you realize, okay, I can't hold on to this hurt. I need to let them go. I need to.
No. So some of the people that hurt us a lot are our family, and it's mostly our family because the people, it's our family or somebody who are related to, because who cares if somebody else is out there on the street that says something that offends us? We usually just shrug that off because it's like that person doesn't know me. It's not personal. Usually when somebody hurts us and traumatizes us, it's personal. Right? I mean, if it's somebody that doesn't know you, obviously you know what I mean? That's called, basically we have a word for that. It's just like, it's you know what I mean? It's not malicious. It's just reckless. It's just they accidentally, or maybe they tried to hurt you randomly, but it's like, most people go, that guy was just a jerk or something like that. They just, you know what I mean? They're able to forgive people. People most likely can forgive random people. I'm not saying they can all the time, but I'm just saying like most people think that way. So for somebody to say, oh, and here's the thing, I think it's most important that, and I'm not saying like you should, like I said, people don't owe each other any time. I don't owe anybody any time. They don't owe me to spend any time with them. But here's the thing. When there's somebody in your life that's very toxic and that's really bad, and they will want to leave you if you start talking about forgiveness. And I noticed that's the weapon that you use against toxic people. They want to bail against you. So don't be the person that bails out. Make them bail out. You preach that gospel to them. You be the one that's going to stand on business and make them retreat. So I don't like this, oh, I'm going to bail, blah, 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 blah. It's just the easy way out. Look, most people, when they have forgiveness in their heart, they want other people to know about it and experience that and to get on the same page as you. And so basically you want them to have the same peace that you have. And you're like, you want them to have that. And so you actually do have patience for people. If you actually do forgive them, you will have patience to be around some of these people that are just messed up. You'll just understand that they're just messed up. You're not just going to keep getting reoffended, because if you do have forgiveness in your heart, you're going to be patient and kind and merciful. And you're going to be able to, it'll just come out of your pores if you really do have it in your heart. And you're just going to want that for the other person. Does that make sense? And so don't be the one that bails. Try to help that person and try to, and we're supposed to have charity. And charity is giving to somebody who doesn't deserve it. These people out here, they don't deserve it. It's what forgiveness is giving to somebody who doesn't deserve it. These people have hurt us over and over and over. They don't deserve it. But look, if you trust God that he's going to take care of you no matter what, and he's puts on your heart that you have to be that example for that person and show them how to forgive, that's going to be incredible. Because that person's going to say, hey, look, this person didn't just bail on me. This person is stuck around until I figured this thing out. Or more than likely, these people are just going to leave. They can't stand it. Their demons can't handle it. They're just like, their demons want to get out of that situation. Trust me, dude. I've had so many people that are toxic in my life, and I start talking about forgiveness. They are hightail, 7 sheets to the wind. So anyway.
Release them from their debt, what they owe me. It's hurt. I need to let them go. I need to release them from their debt, what they owe me. At the same time, I need to let them go as well. I can't hold on to them. I can't trust them in my life, because that's one of the casualties, right, of being hurt is trust. One of the casualties of being hurt is the relationship.
This seems like this is a problem I have a lot with sometimes with pastors and stuff, because there's like the wisdom of the Bible and wisdom of God, and then there's man's wisdom, and sometimes we're preaching out of man's wisdom instead of out of God's wisdom, and that's just my opinion. So I just not what it's not how I reinterpret that.
Itself. So it's one thing to say, I release you from your debt. It's another thing to say, and I release you from this relationship. I release you from this friendship. At least from...
Well, sure. That's fine.
The depth that we shared before this. The next step is reconciliation.
Like, you don't have to go into an intimate relationship again with that person if you don't want to. But if in your heart of hearts you want to do that, because that's what you really want, is that, hey, I need to reconcile this relationship. I know this is going to hurt. But this is exactly what I signed up for. Hey, but there's other people in your life, like, friends and family and cousins and stuff like that. If you don't necessarily need to be in that relationship, but if it's your wife, you better gosh darn, or your husband, you better gosh darn, because you signed up for that. And if I have one regret in my life, that's what I should have done. And I would have hoped that was the case for my wife at the time. Because guess what? That relationship was gone. Because neither one of us could forgive. Gone. Poof. So if you want to have a good, strong relationship, you better figure that out.
But reconciliation, it's okay if that takes time. We remember that forgiveness is a process. It's rarely an event. It's rarely one moment of like, I release you from your...
So I'm agreeing with a lot of the things he's saying. I'm just trying to put these caveats in here where it kind of needs. So it's not like I'm disagreeing with this guy entirely. I'm just saying that this thing needs some context and some caveats, because like we're running rim shot over this subject, and I feel like it needs a little more delicacy.
Your debt, now it's all fine. It's usually, I have to be reminded of this. I have to choose it again and again in order for it to kind of really sink in. And something similar is true when it comes to reconciliation. If I want to reconcile with this person, it's rare that I can just give them all of my trust immediately once again. So what we realize is there's a process of reconciliation. And that process of reconciliation is, I'm going to give you a little bit of trust and see what you do with it. In this particular, especially in this area that you hurt me. No, especially in those relationships that...
The only problem I see with this is, if you ever been in a relationship with your, like, this is fine for your brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, and friends, but not with the person you are in a relationship with, as in like you're married to. I would not recommend that. You cannot go on in a relationship without trust. It will not happen. So you better come up with that conclusion. It's going to happen, and I have to trust you, and it will go on from now on, or it won't. And it has to come from a place of forgiveness, because if it comes from anywhere else, it's going to come from fear. And if it's going to come from fear, it's going to be coming from the devil. Those are your options: forgive or fear of what's going to happen. So we can be hurt again, but 70 times 7 is what the Bible verse says. That basically means you just keep doing it. If and Jesus was very specific to say, if you are in a marriage, it is adultery if you guys break up and go on with your lives. And start just going and finding somebody new and all this other stuff. As far as he's concerned, that's not how he taught you to do it. And he says, and everyone said, that's pretty harsh, bro. Who can, it's like, it's hard. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. He says, whoever can deal with this can deal with this. If not, that's what it is. Then they're saying it's better not to be married. He said, so be it. But it is better. It's better to not be in a marriage if you can't grit through that. It is. And hate to say it, that's it. That's it.
That we have that are meant to go our entire lives, that are meant to last our entire lives. Maybe those relationships we even vowed to be part of. It's like, okay, I forgive you. Reconciliation is piece by piece, little by little, bit by bit. I'm going to hand you a little bit more of the thing you damaged. That could be my heart.
Sorry, but you better give your heart fully back to that person after that. Because if you haven't given your heart back to that person, you are not forgiving from your heart. Hate to say it, but it's true. Hate to say it's true. Sorry. You're holding on to something. You're saying, I am considering this an offense. And you're basically saying, I'm carrying out the judgment that this punishment needs. That's what you're saying. You're saying, I'm carrying out the judgment right now. Instead of forgiveness. No. You're saying, I'm carrying the judgment out. You're making terms for their sentence. You're saying, no, this is going to be, if this goes on, this is the terms of your sentence. That's not forgiveness. Sorry.
That could be my trust. That could be my whatever the thing is. The analogy I always like to think of is,
the only reason why I'm on here doing these videos is because, have you heard my take before? Or do you hear this guy's take? Is that fair? Is that fair? Because people have been going to pastors and all this stuff for years, and no one's getting the concept of this. And so I'm just sorry. It's terrible.
Is if you lend someone your car, right? You lend them your vehicle, and they injure it. They break it. Can you injure cars? They hurt the car. They broke the car. They wrecked the car, and it cost you $1,500. Like justice says, you owe me $1,500. If I forgive you, that costs me something. I say, release you from your debt. You don't owe me $1,500. I'm not necessarily going to let you drive my car again, right? That's forgiveness. But reconciliation would be maybe something along the lines of, okay, can I begin trusting you with my vehicle again? That thing that you damaged, you have to demonstrate to me that my trusting you with it is not me being foolish. You have to demonstrate to me that I actually can trust you with this. And that begins the process of reconciliation. And as that reconciliation...
All right, hold on. Let's just get some of these. One time a priest told me, loving someone doesn't always mean you have to like them. Changed my life. It actually has a lot to do with you and God, and it has very little to do with the other person. So I can kind of agree with that. Oops, didn't mean to kick my camera. What forgiveness has become for me is recognizing that I've been hurt, letting the person know that they've hurt me, deciding if I can carry on with the relationship once someone has shown me their true colors and it becomes clear that they will not. I cannot. They will not. Cannot change. I have every right to stop contact with them or alter the amount of contact with them. Each time. So okay, okay, that's fair. That's fair. If you are in a relationship with somebody who's toxic and you're not picking somebody who's got who so somebody who has forgiveness in their heart, they're not going to go around offending people on purpose. They're not going to try to, at least. And if that's their goal, they're not trying to offend you, and they're trying to do their best to not offend you and try to do their best to serve the other person, basically, in that way, to serve that person in not offending them. And the both people are doing that. It's very easy to just overlook some offenses in general. It's very easy. But if you're saying, oh, if this person's it's clear to me that this person's seen their true colors, blah 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 blah. Well, what did they say? What did they say? There's a point of just you're being like, alter the amount of contact with them. So it's this again. I understand you should do everything everything practically speaking, you should be doing as much as you can to find the right person to be with. And so I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that you better figure this out before, you get in a relationship with somebody, because it is going to be tough. And also, people can offend you even though they're trying their best. So even if they're trying, sometimes they can still offend you. So you should have that mentality going in. And so, if you're able to, and here's the thing, if that person offended you right away and you have the opportunity to figure out forgiveness with that person really early in the relationship, oh my gosh, and you guys grew from that, I would call that a blessing. Anyway, so it says, each time the hurt of the person that has wronged me haunts me, I pray for them. That's exactly what I say in one of my videos. That's exactly right. I say it's a hack. I said in one of my videos, this is a prayer hack. Every time somebody pops in your head, pray for that person. If devil's trying to bring up old dirt, pray for him. Has wronged me, I pray for them. I also pray for forgiveness of any wrong I've done towards anyone ever. Yep. You should be going to make peace with somebody. If you've felt like, hey, you know what? I was at a place, I was at a line, and you're able to have contact with that person, you should go out of your way and you should say, hey, look, I was a total mess and I didn't mean to do that and I screwed that up. Absolutely my fault. I take responsibility. I can't believe I did that, blah, blah, blah. I did not want to offend you. I didn't want to hurt you. That's not what I wanted. In my heart of hearts, that's not what I wanted. And most people really appreciate that. To be honest with you, most people are like, stoked. Thanks. That's awesome. And guess what? It's not easy. I sweated like, it was harder to go say I was sorry than it was to forgive. Oh, so much harder. But you know what? If you know that might be the thing that's keeping them from forgiving you, you freaking better, bro. And also that, but here's the thing. It's not it's even if you do that, even if you go say sorry, that person, it might just reignite something, but that's still not your fault. So you're going to say, hey, look, I'm really just trying not to offend you. And I'm just trying to say sorry, whatever I did. One person in particular, I said, hey, look, I don't think this was working out the way I planned in my mind. And I had to follow up with a text and say, hey, look, whatever it is, the point of this whole thing was whatever it is. I just didn't want to offend you. I hope you the best. Blah blah blah. And that person was like, oh yeah, absolutely. No, you're fine. Everything's good. Blah blah blah. Okay, and for me, I was just like, oh, because I was just, because you can't make someone forgive you either, which is really tough. This is really tough, because sometimes these people, you want them in your life, and you miss them, and you regret what you've done, or but you have to, if that person's like did what this guy says, and you've forgiven, but you will not reconcile. You'll never be around that person. Blah 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 blah. Hey, look, if you really forgave, would it matter if you guys are hanging out or not? And be real. Be real. If you totally, why would it matter if you're around that person or not if you actually forgave from your heart? What, you're just afraid that something else is going to happen? Well, then forgive again. All right. All right. So, and we should count it all joy. You should count it all joy. Some people like family members. This usually is anyways. I practice cordial contact with. I keep them at arm's length. I'm kind and cordial, but I don't keep close relations with them as I'm very aware of what they are capable of. I should allow them back in my life on a closer level. That's fair. That's fair. But what I've noticed is, like, if I forgive you and I have forgiveness in my heart, it's really not going to hurt my feelings if I put myself out there again for you or anybody else. I don't have to hold back if I actually really forgive from my heart. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to save my heart from being hurt again. It doesn't feel like that. That's not what forgiveness feels like to me. It feels like you letting it go. Not holding on to it. You're not holding on to your heart. You're giving it to God. You said, God has my heart. And, so you're basically not, if you're giving your heart and being intimate with somebody, blah, 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 there's a point where, like, you're creating like this idolatry thing where, like, you're worshiping them, and you shouldn't be doing that anyways. Like, if that person has that much like pull of your emotions, like, you are worshiping that person, because you should be doing that for God. And I'm not saying, like, should we just be, like, heartless to people, but there's a point where you could just be worshiping that person, and, like, it could be idolatry. And so anyway, it says, while I initially thought that this came at the exact wrong time, as I'm in a process of hoping and trusting God to reconcile and restore a broken relationship, that came at just in the right time, the exact right time. His timing is perfect, and he is so good. So let's read some of these replies. So it says, how does this work with a spouse or adult children? It really highlights how difficult it is to love and bless your enemies. It's so hard. I'm practicing. LOL. So yeah, we're supposed to bless those who curse you. If you haven't heard any of this stuff in the Bible, you should probably crack that thing open. Okay. But if we really think on Jesus asking and demonstrating this radical way of life, well, I think some of us don't like thinking too much. The cost of this is so big. pick up your cross and follow me. What happens if the person is a family member? Probably is. Many of us have family members who we struggle to forgive but need to forgive. Wow, this is especially tough when it's a spouse or child, especially adult children. We must always aim to act with love, quote, charity. Sometimes loving someone means to cut that relationship for some time or indefinitely, because to continue the relationship is not good for you nor the other person repeatedly hurting you. And love is willing goodness for the other. Sometimes justice means your perpetrator must face the fact that you are ending the relationship for good, and justice is an act of love because it gives the person who did wrong the opportunity to learn and get better. We pray all acts of justice bear fruit. So I didn't get triggered at the very beginning of this when he talked about justice, because maybe I should have, but the beginning is he was like, this is all about justice. And I wasn't about to go on a tirade. I was going to wait this guy talk, but justice is the law. And are you under the law? If you're under the law, you're under a curse. If you're under grace, you're under the new covenant, and you're covered by grace. So are you under the law or are you under grace? So justice, that's the master's job, is to deal out that justice. Okay? Just saying. Hopefully this stuff's all making sense. It's not easy. It sucks. It doesn't really suck. Actually, it doesn't suck. The point is once actually you do it, it's really, really nice. You have incredible peace. And I'll tell you what, once you have that peace and these problems show up again, you're like, I ain't dealing with none of this. I am getting out of this. I'll go right to somebody and say, hey, you know what? That really hurt me. I can't believe that hurt me. But you know what? My little pride got hurt. My little feelings got hurt, and it hurt. It sucked. I'm sorry. I felt that way, and hey, you know what? I forgive you. It's better that you just do that right away than let the stuff fester and think about it and have all the demons torturing you over it, and then come up with the perfect plan and all this other stuff. What you're gonna say and how you're gonna get back at these people and blah 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 blah. It's just like, dude, you should just be like, right away, just say, hey, look, that's not gonna work. And usually people who know that you want to forgive them and are aware of it, you keep doing it, they're not trying to offend you. They know that you're probably a decent person and trying their best to not offend you either. They know that you're not a toxic person. You see what I'm saying? If they know that you're not a toxic person out there to get them, they're going to be better. They're going to forgive you better too. They're going to say, oh, okay, well, blah, blah, blah. So be careful with your last paragraph. For me, it seems like judgment. Who are we to judge? Ooh, hoo, hoo. Thank you. Good question. My daughter is 15 and my husband and I are hanging on in after 20 years of marriage. Hanging in. Sorry. Some people go their whole life being tortured by demons and they're just hanging in. They have never felt peace. And they go their whole life being tortured. It's a shame. I suppose with children, you continue to let them know you love them, but will not tolerate nor accept abuse. Ooh, this is a trigger word. Abuse is a trigger word for me. Let's just read the rest of it and I'll talk about that. Sincere prayers for you that you are granted guidance, grace, and wisdom. Okay. Abuse. So the reason why I don't like abuse is because like it's kind of a word that you use like to justify what you're saying. Like it's one of those justifying rules, like that person hurt you because they abused you, right? They abused your trust. They abused it. Like, yeah. But but when you say abuse, you kind of like, it's kind of one of those words where you're like, that person just deserves whatever's coming to them. You see what I mean? It's kind of like has like a lot of that judgment attached to it, where using that kind of word can like put you in like a heart position where you're like not want to bless that person who hurt you. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I hope this person gets what they deserve. You know what I mean? So I have siblings which I've switched to cordial contact with. Holiday gatherings are not as big, but the cost of being around them at holidays is greater than not. Okay. For me anyway. So what do you think? Is it better that you okay, if you forgave that person, what's the point of, what's the problem of having them around? And let's be honest. All these people go out here going, oh, this person's a narcissist and they're a psychopath and a manipulator and abuser and blah blah blah. Let's be real, dude. Who isn't at some point doing something that's manipulating? Who's not manipulating? I mean, dude, just raise your hand if you've ever manipulated a child once. Everyone's lied to a kid. So who is the most innocent person on the planet. So don't act like you're like this saint out here. Okay? Who, you know what I mean? So let's be honest. You're not that great either. Right? We're all sinners. We're all got problems, blah, blah, blah. So it's just like, dude, and here's the kicker. You're not going to show up at the family events now. Now you've offended everybody else. This one person offended you. So now you're going to offend the rest of the group. Is that fair? You're punishing that person and the rest of the family because you can't forgive. Now the rest of the family can't hang out with your kids, and the kids can't be around them, and they don't understand, and they don't know why, and that's just how they're. And now, all your kids are gonna think some way about the rest of the family. Oh, my family's got to be a bunch of psychos, a bunch of weirdos, and a bunch of this and a bunch of that. I mean, it might be true, but who's worse? Who's worse? You've just denied. You see what I'm saying? These are tit for tat things. Instead of forgiveness, you're saying, I'm going to carry out the sentence instead of, because it didn't happen. So I'm going to carry the sentence out, and this is how I'm going to carry the sentence out. You see what I'm saying? It's not really forgiveness. I'm so sick of it. As far as living in the same house, I don't know. Yeah. This person says, I can walk away from the rest of the family because I can just skip out on family events. Living in the same house, I don't know. Yeah, because you haven't thought that far. Because if you're really honest with yourself, you haven't really forgiven. So, if you haven't really forgiven, them being in the same house would be a problem, wouldn't it? So, we're back at square one. So maybe you should just forgive from your heart and for realsies this time. My husband and I have been through it through the years, I'll bet, because somebody stopped forgiving and now you guys are going through it. We've sought counseling and simply do the best we can. You'll just be tortured the rest of your life. Okay, just be tortured the rest of your life. And my daughter is 15 and trying my patience a great deal. Now your family's going to start torturing you. What's crazy is like once you start getting tortured by demons, you're irritated from everything after that. I remember when I was like, I remember very vividly that I was mad for so much of my life, just angry, and there's not a single person that can make me feel better. I chased drugs, women. It was, it's just this girlfriend. She's just, she just does this. This just really bugs me. You know what I mean? Like great girls, but I had no forgiveness. So I'd be like, I would just, she just bugs me when she does this and that. And the more you say that stuff, the more you're just like reacting and stuff instead of like, responding with love or anything to these people in forgiveness, the more they turn out to be a pain in your butt back to you. It's like self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, my daughter's 15 and trying the patience a great deal. She's a teen, however. I'm hanging in there with her as God gifted her to me so I could raise a faithful human. Well, faith in what? Faith in forgiveness? Faith for the sake of faith? Faith in what? What are we doing here, folks? I'm doing the best I can and praying multiple times a day. Well, it says you can take your sacrifice to the altar. It says if you take your sacrifice to the altar and you have anything against your brother, leave the sacrifice there, go and make peace with your brother, and then come back to the temple and finish the sacrifice. This is Old Testament, New Testament. He hasn't changed one bit. He's the same dude. Okay, so you can pray all day, every day, and sacrifice as much as you want. But if you don't forgive your brother, you will not be forgiven. If you do not forgive, you will not be forgiven. That's what the Bible's verse says. If you do not forgive, you will not be forgiven. That's how I'm approaching it. Well, I would say, don't do that. Very well said. I'm not anyone that should judge. I know I'm not my best self, nor who God needs me to be when I'm allowing myself to be triggered and hurt. Yeah. Whoa. I think it's not judgmental, but a fact. Judgment comes from guessing what other people's deeds are or why they behave the way they do. Facts are facts. Whatever they come from or go, it's reasonable and right to be away from them. We owe respect to ourselves. You owe respect to yourself. Okay. So that's another justifier, right? They've justified using to not reconcile. And really reconciliation, let's see. Let's just look it up. Reconciliation. The restoration of family relations. The act of making one view or compatible with another. Reconciling with somebody is, what does Jesus mean? The process of two previously alienated parties coming to peace with each other. Making peace with someone. So it's like, if you're making peace or you're not. So this guy, if you want to call him that, he's kind of not saying something I agree with. So here's my point. You can not agree with somebody, but I forgive them. It's not like, see what I mean? And when I'm saying that, it's not like I'm not judging him. I'm just saying I don't agree with you.
Happens, then you have this third thing, and that's called restoration. So forgiveness, I release you from your debt. Reconciliation, the process for us as human beings is, okay, I'm going to extend a little bit of my trust of this thing that you damaged. And if we grow in this, we can have this third reality, and that third reality is restoration.
I'm just going to play the rest
restoration after an injury. Restoration after an injury can often become even greater than before, right? The relationship can even be greater than before. Now, when it comes to the Lord, he not only offers us forgiveness immediately, he offers us reconciliation immediately. He offers us restoration immediately. In fact, think about in the gospel.
So we get it from Jesus, but we don't do it to anybody else? What?
Gospels, once again, you have Simon Peter, who denies knowing Jesus 3 times in a row. He weeps bitterly, he repents, he comes back to the Lord, and when he sees Jesus on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, he dives into the water, swims to him, and at one point, shortly after this, what does Jesus ask him? He says, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, you know I love you. He asks him a second time and a third time, do you love me more than these? And after he says he loves him, all 3 times he says, feed my sheep, tend my lambs, feed my sheep. Remember, Peter was given the role of being the Al-Habaid. He was given the role of being the Pope. He was given the role of being the shepherd in place of the good shepherd, Jesus himself. And what does Jesus say? At the end of this whole gospel, he says, okay, Peter, you're restored. Feed my sheep. Peter, you're restored. Tend my lambs. Peter, you're restored. Feed my sheep. Because when we come to the Lord, he's not waiting around to trust us again. He just trusts us, which is bonkers and bananas, but it's so good.
Because forgiveness is supernatural. It's not natural. Jesus is asking us to do a supernatural thing. And you can only do a supernatural thing with the help of Jesus. You can't do it on your own. You can't think it through in men's logic. You can't do it on your own. Men's logic, it doesn't make sense. You can go through those comment sections. People are trying to use logic to figure it out. Oh, I'm not going to judge. I'm judging. That's logic. Logic is judging back and forth to try to figure this thing out. You can't do that. It won't work. You'll walk yourselves into a circle. It will not work. Forgiveness is supernatural. It's not natural. Natural law, you'll be under the curse if you're under natural law. Supernatural law, which is what Jesus is trying to tell you, is what is going to get you through. That's why it's bonkers.
Good. So, forgiveness, reconciliation, and restoration. God offers those things to us immediately in the sacrament of confession. So my invitation is, if you need forgiveness, go to confession.
That's not what he says. Doesn't say go to confession. So, sorry. Again, that's not what he says to do. He says, go make peace with... Go make peace. That doesn't mean to go to confession and go tell somebody else. That's actually called gossip. You don't just go to somebody else and just start telling them all your problems you have with somebody else. Oh my gosh. Seriously, bro. Seriously, bro. Freaking, never mind.
If you need reconciliation, go to confession. And if you need restoration, go to confession. Jesus wants to give you those things. And if you need to give forgiveness, do it. If you need to give reconciliation, do it wisely. And
we got to do it wisely now.
if there's something that's been broken that needs to be restored, then do it with the grace that's been given to you through the sacrament of reconciliation. For all of us here at Ascension Presents, my name is Father Mike.
Maybe I'll make another video based on the other. Apparently I know how to talk, and I can make an 8 minute and 43 second video into a hour long. But I'm just saying this stuff needs to be hashed out because people need to hear this, and it's gone on long enough. So like, share, and subscribe. All right, love y'all.